Okay, yeah, and just real quick, just a reminder what Conduit is. It's a tribe of small business owners and leaders who desire to get better by learning and growing together, which is why we're sharing kind of a peer-to-peer mutual mentorship is a term I've been introduced to recently, where we can learn a lot from each other. We got podcasts going out daily. Our small groups have moved to audio. Of course, we're doing webinars like today. And this is a continuation of, I guess, the topic, Paul, is leading in uncertain times. And a reminder, what we're not here to do, as we mentioned, we're not here to talk about the government, toilet paper. And this might be tough for us today, but we're not here to talk about whether you as a leader should or shouldn't stay open. There's a lot of noise out there. And so you as a leader are going to have to make decisions whether you should or shouldn't. However, one of the things that Paul and I talked about offline is not to create that conversation here. And there's a lot of tension that we're navigating. The panic, which I'm experiencing already today, the edge of panic, and then the edge of denial, and realizing that I'm trying to navigate the tension in between. So the question is, how are you leading you? How are you leading your staff? How are you leading your clients? And so this is kind of a continuation from last week, Paul.
Yeah, very much so. So I'm aware it seems like most things that we're hearing are that we are exempt. HBA and NARI both have come out and advised that the industry is exempt. We're going to do like 3 quick polls here real fast. If you guys can fill in these polls. The first one, Rebecca, you can go ahead and put it up, is will you be continuing to do business during the stay-at-home order? Just a quick yes or no. And we can share the results of these after you answer them. Just let me know, Rebecca, when everybody answers, and we'll go to the second one right away. So HBA, NARI, I've heard some legal advice that we are exempt, but just curious if you do intend to stay open and continue to work during the stay at home. Okay, second one is, have any of your, go ahead and put it up when you're ready, Rebecca. Have any clients expressed concerns about you working in their home?
Good question.
Have any of your clients expressed any concerns about you working in their home?
I bet that'll change substantially today, by the way.
Good. And, you know, concerns meaning, do we want you in the house? I mean, some people might have concerns about what their schedule is going to be too. And the last one, real quick, have any team members expressed concerns about working in people's homes? So how can you share those? Can you share those results on the screen with us then? Okay. So then as soon as they're all in, share that first poll on the screen. And those of you who called in, I realize you probably, looks like most people have logged in. But if you've called in, you're probably not going to be able to see the results of the poll. Yep. Okay, so our first one, will you be continuing? 76 to 29, so not sure what everyone else expected. That doesn't surprise me. So about 3/4 of us. Go ahead and give us the second one, Rebecca. And about the same, interesting, about the same, you've had clients express concerns. That's a pretty high percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one, Rebecca. And slightly lower concerns on your employee size, but that's a pretty high number, Jerry, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can get that off Jerry's face. Okay. Actually, it looked a little better on his face.
Yes.
So I'm curious, as you're thinking, the main topic, as Jerry mentioned, sort of managing and leading through this. And last time we talked a lot about your team, and partly, obviously, some of your team members are bringing up issues that they have some concerns. Let's start with your clients. Does anybody have anything they want to share in terms, not just necessarily about what those concerns are, although that would be nice to hear too. And then let's also talk about what you're doing to try to manage through that, to bring some calm, some sense of trust from them. Does anybody like to jump in real quick. Ashley's got her hand up. You know, unmute her. You're good, Ash. Yep.
A lot of my clients are baby boomers, and I think probably all of our clients are. So obviously, I think they have a little bit more to be worried about during this time, and I feel like I have to respect that and keep my distance. I've offered some online meetings to design world than it is to make big ones. You know, if people are willing to take measurements, that works too. I can do drawings based off of that, but most people that I've talked to have pretty much just said we'll reconvene after a few weeks and see where we're at.
So you're trying to come up with some ways to work by letting them measure or something like that, but they're kind of putting the brakes on.
Right. I had a friend suggest maybe getting on like some social media sites and, you know, either like offering, you know, just some concept ideas or talking, you know, lowering my rates just to get some online kind of business. But I haven't quite come up with what seems like the right idea to do. And plus I have a kid that's, you know, home, and I've got daycare twice a week with my parents, but other than that, I don't really have an option to work the rest of the 3 days.
Yeah, and I'm sure having a little one at home adds another dynamic to it as well.
Well, he's keeping me sane by going on 3 walks a day, but other than that, it's a lot.
Yeah, and from a safety perspective, I'm sure it's on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Anybody else? Andrew, go ahead. Go ahead, Andrew.
So you guys hear me?
Yep.
So we have naturally clients that are at home, stay at home at this point. And I cleared out the voicemail and conversations I had with clients yesterday afternoon. And the general consensus from a majority of those clients is, we don't know if you're sick. We don't know if we're sick. Let's practice social distancing. So I've got guys cleaning out a couple jobs today just so that homes are more relative to normal. But we're also kind of in a transition of finishing a number of jobs, kind of doing little punch outs on some of those before we're getting into 2 big whole home renovations. So, you know, as much as I'd like to say, hey, can we come get into your house right now? That's challenging because they do have a functioning kitchen, functioning bathrooms, flooring. So to go in and tear that apart, in my opinion, is unjust. So it makes it challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a case maybe where the client isn't telling you to stay out. You're feeling compelled to stay out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, one of the clients, they're both emergency room doctors. So again, I wouldn't personally want to be there every day because I would pretty much guarantee that they have exposure to it already.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have written documentation that they've drafted up to send to clients, or a script?
This is Alan. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
We had 3 individual letters that we drafted last week, kind of for 3 different purposes. One was to clients whose jobs are currently in production, just to let them know what our procedures are, how we're treating this. The second one was for clients that were 6 jobs that were about to start, that had a little different focus about starting, whether or not they were comfortable, et cetera. And the third letter was for all the people who are in our design sales platform right now, getting ready to look at jobs and talking about utilizing the web-based type meetings and what our showroom schedule was going to be like. So we kind of had individual letters for self-directed to 3 different types of client in the pipeline.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. Alan, I wonder if you would mind sharing any feedback about what did you get back from as you took the temperature of those clients?
Yeah, I had one or two directly come back to let us know. We've had people actually on the opposite side of things. They're like, come and work as long as they knew. Some of these are in larger homes where we're not really right in tight quarters. We got a couple decks we're building and stuff like that where people were just perfectly fine. Others, I did have one in our in design and sales that wanted to just confirm tomorrow, Tuesday, that they could meet and go to meeting. So generally, I didn't have a lot of, we've got 22 jobs in production right now, and I had one client say they didn't want us there. So I was kind of surprised that number was that low. Mm-hmm. We have an 85-year-old client whose job was supposed to start last Thursday, who we canceled on our end because we didn't think it was right to be in her home. So some of these things are driven, I would say most of my decisions in the last week have been driven by my staff more than by the client. Looking at their families, had a young man who's worked for us for a long time text me last night that he is living with his girlfriend and her 95-year-old grandfather. And so he is going to stay away for a little while. Have one employee whose wife's got cancer, so he's staying home because she's been in treatment. So it's really been more employee focused decisions. Our internal clients come first, and that's really where we've been staying.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Interesting. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that employee side of it. That's good. Interesting.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And I'm wondering, we talked a little bit about this last week, Paul, and I'm wondering if, Alan, what his, how they're managing the mental, emotional aspects of their team. Like, how are they, do you have one person assigned? Like, one of the things that we're trying, and Chris is on this call again today, is what we've tried is to have one guy assigned to our staff to say, hey, your job is to make sure that, whatever they need, get a pulse on them now throughout the day, see how they're doing, what do they need, their fears, concerns, just have one person that's really just focused in on the internal customer, our staff. And so I don't know how you guys are managing that, Alan, if you have one person or do you have a team assigned to the staff? I don't want to take this off on Paul, if you wanted to keep it on the client side.
No, I actually think, I think the two overlap. There's no doubt about it. I mean, one of the big questions I think lots of people have is, one was, can I keep working through the order? Two is, if I can legally keep working through the order, what is that going to mean? Are my clients even going to want me in, and do my employees even want to work? So I think that's all wrapped up in there. So yeah, if you have anything to share on that or respond to that, Alan, that would be great.
I would say for us, we've, my office manager, Mara, and I practice something every morning. We begin our day talking about our people. So we always do that, not just in this crisis. So she sits in my office for a half hour, and that's all we talk about is our staff, just to see what their needs are, what happened over the weekend, et cetera. So her and I have been practicing doing that first and foremost to share what she knows and I know. Under stress, there's really three ways people respond to crisis. There's fight, there's flight, and there's freeze. And those three they have benefits and drawbacks. So we really look at what people are looking at. So if you're a fight responder, you're decisive, you're fast, you're action oriented. The drawbacks can be you can move too quickly, make rash decisions, be a little too directive. The flight is you'll be inclusive, you'll build coalitions and kind of be an empathetic type person. But your drawback might be you're too consensus driven, et cetera. And then you have freeze. And I think a lot of our employees are experiencing some of this at the moment. You may be calm, thoughtful about what you're doing, but you can be very indecisive. Really tough to give instructions. So I'm looking at our managers and saying, if you're in freeze mode or you're in flight mode, I'm not really good at diagnosing these, but I've been kind of looking at them over the past week.
That's good. Yeah.
So if we know that somebody, I believe that each one of our staff is things have to be right at home. Any prayer, even somewhat normal operation here. So I just make a lot of random calls to staff during the day, see how they're doing. Mara, my office manager, does the same, and I know Kevin, who's running production, is in touch a lot with the guys, obviously during the day. But we should know them and their families well enough to know. I had to tell, believe it or not, the guy whose wife had cancer, I had to tell him to stay home. So, you know, he's out on a site. I'm like, you have to be home. So you have to make decisions for folks sometimes because their instincts are maybe not leading them in the right path.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious, I'm going to have Rebecca throw together a quick poll, so this may take just a minute. Alan just brought something up that's critical not only for our employees, but also for us to have a awareness as we're making decisions as leaders and owners of businesses. Are we reacting out of fight or flight or freeze? You could take a minute and just think about that. I'll get Rebecca to throw together a quick poll to throw up for you. And you can just choose which one you think seems to fit for you, because as Alan said, it may be difficult to diagnose it, maybe even in yourself, but if you take a minute here and just think about it, and in your team, but think about yourself in terms of which one of those you tend to react to. Do you tend to go to flight? Do you fight, or do you freeze? And maybe reflect on how you've been reacting to what's been going on.
It's good. It's really good.
And that poll is less really about, remember, these are always anonymous polls, so just be honest with the group. And the poll is less about really taking the temperature of this group than it is about having you pause for a second and think about yourself, reflect on what it is that you're doing, how you're reacting, because you're influencing everyone around you, right? We're talking about the impact of your employees that this is having on your team. Mm-hmm. Your reactions, the way you're leading and managing is certainly impacting them. And it's going to show up for them. Yeah, go ahead and share it once it's finished. Probably not surprising in a group of business owners, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I had an expectation of what that would be, but that wouldn't surprise me in a group of owners and leaders. Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's a good, listening to what Alan was saying about what fight can mean, the benefits of it and the drawbacks to it is a great reflection to think about as you're making decisions and thinking through this. Really think about how that's impacting the choices that you're making.
Yeah, so just to go down through the fight one more time, somebody hear that again if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
There are benefits to fight. You are decisive, you're fast, you are action-oriented. The drawbacks are that you move too quickly, you make rash decisions, and you're overly directive. You are too directive, kind of the old school management style that we're all trying to avoid. So how to counterbalance fight? You close the information gaps. Make sure you prioritize things repeatedly every day. We all had thought in the past week about over communicating our priorities. That is really important. And keep expectations in check. So your employees are really looking, your staff and your external clients obviously as well, to keep expectations in check. You know, and there are drawbacks for fight, but I think right now fight's a very good mode to be in. I think people are also, their ego will drive a lot of things for them. So I'm not a freeze, I'm not a flight, I'm a fight, you know, that whole, you know, I can tough this out. Sometimes you have to switch and be a bit of all three of these. And there is nothing wrong with being in freeze because you're calm, you're data driven, you're thoughtful. In freeze, you keep your mouth shut more and listen. That is really an important feature right now for all of us, is just to be able to listen, because somebody just might want to share. They're either in one of these three, and maybe they don't like it. Maybe they don't like where they are. My project managers right now and field supervisors are all I've really learned a lot the past week about the things that they need for them and their family. So a good mix of flight and fight and freeze is good. The military uses these in their training. You can find these out there. There's a General McChrystal from Afghanistan is the one I have used before in a book that he wrote. I can't remember the book, but if you look up General McChrystal, you'll see his thoughts on fight, flight, and freeze. So I think these things are built into us.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. Thanks for reiterating those. It's a great point to understand that because someone else is reacting differently than you doesn't make their reaction wrong. And in fact, if you can see that everything about us, our strengths have a light and a shadow. So things about our strengths are good and things about our strengths are not so good. And then recognizing that others on your team may have what you need to fill in that shadow side of who you are. So if you tend to be fight, perhaps intentionally seek out help and advice from the people who tend to be flight or freeze, because they could slow you down from making a bad decision because you become too action oriented and not strategic enough.
Mm-hmm.
I would, can you guys hear me? This is Rick. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why I didn't answer that question, because I think it is a combination of all three. Each person, and if we're talking about, you know, our staff or employees, each person's reacting a little differently. So I have to put all that in perspective. As far as our business, my doors are locked. This is all a communication thing. Communication with your employees, communication with your customers. We do have signs posted on the doors where they need to call us before we'll allow them to enter into the building. You got to realize that we are a wholesaler as well as a retailer with customers that are just coming in and shopping us for showroom selections. But on the other side, as a wholesaler, you know, we have our contractors that we need to service and take care of so that they can continue, like we're saying, to do their jobs and follow the infrastructure that, you know, we're kind of exempt from. So we're taking calls, and to be honest with you, quite a few calls have been coming in. We've been accommodating and kind of qualifying each one of those customers before we'll allow entry. Upmost is the safety of my employees, and I have to be careful with that. But we will load out customers at the back of the warehouse outside. So really it's for us business as usual, but it's more communicating with my employees and communicating with my customers.
Same but different. Same but different. That's good, right? Yeah. Anybody else want to share any actions you've taken to adjust the way you're dealing with, you're working with your clients, you're working with your vendors, subcontractors? Anybody else have anything you'd like to add there? I mean, I think Rick makes some good points. You can keep doing business, but he's had to modify that out of the safety of his employees and frankly, you know, as if someone's doing business with Rick, it would be reassuring to know that he's protecting not only himself, but protecting your team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember to raise your hand if you want to chat and talk. You're not going to be able to. Rebecca loves all this power over all of us. She can keep us all muted.
Brian Seiler had a question earlier, but it may have been, I'm trying to read in the chat. I just sent him a text to see if.
I think he was having trouble getting his audio.
Yeah.
So either so if you're a contractor going into people's homes, is there, and you're one of those who've had a client express concerns, are you getting actual projects stopped, or are those clients open to hearing that you've got some practices you can adhere to in order to keep working? Alan?
Each client's definitely approaching this differently. we have some really aggressive clients who I think if someone's a gas pedal, I got to be the brake. And if somebody's a brake, I got to be the gas pedal. Like a good marriage or a good friendship. So I think we evaluate, first of all, what do we have on the premises? What is the situation? If it's a single bathroom, that is different than a whole house. That is different than an outside deck. So we're looking at the risk factors of each project. I am empowering my field staff, the supervisor level field staff, to make the decision on what goes on that job that day. So if he has to, if we are up and running on that project, check in with the owner daily, make sure that the trades and the subs and everybody involved knows what the rules of the game are for that project for that day. I am asking these guys to run this business a week at a time, a day at a time, and be very understanding, knowing the fears and concerns that every trade and every person that's in that site have. So these have all been different. This is incredible management training last week and the week before, et cetera. So I am letting people make mistakes, but watching them carefully. Really the owner main point of contact is, it's their domain. I'm kind of the opinion that we need to get these kitchens and these bathrooms in people's hands as quickly as we can. They're going completely bananas with their kids and everybody in the house and nowhere to go. So if we are able to, they feel like progress makes them feel a little bit better, but I just want to make sure they're safe. So I've been laying some of those decisions through Kevin and through who's our production manager, through Kevin, and then also through the field supervisors. But these are all very different situations for us. We just got to keep talking about them and make sure we're making decisions that have safety in mind.
I think it's important to, I think Brian Seiler wants to say something. I'll just quickly respond to Alan as well. I think it's important to look at those projects individually, as you're saying, because you're right, building a deck outside somebody's house where you don't even have to go in certainly is a different approach than if you're walking into their kitchen or going through their bedroom to get to their master bath. So that's an important distinction. Go ahead, Brian. I think you should be on.
I think he just sent me a text. He thinks his mic is actually broken, like on his end.
Oh, gotcha.
Excuse me. So I just asked him to send me a text with what he wanted to mention or statement he wanted to make. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody else has anything you want to share in terms of working around client concerns. We have a client who is undergoing chemotherapy. She started partway, obviously she was doing it when all this started. And we just came up with a system where all the floor covering paths that get us from where we get in the house to the project, we made a strict rule that no one goes off any of those paths. So that way we know no one's in the house in any but these locations, and we can wipe down, clean those areas, and she can stay out of those areas. So it's very, very clear for her as to where we are in the house. And then she sort of, I don't want to say quarantine because she's not sick, but she knows to stay. And as Alan said, it's a larger house. She knows she can stay at one end of the house. We can be at the other end of the house. Communicating with her husband now instead of her, that's new.
Yeah.
But, it was what it took to make her feel good about the guys continuing to work in the house. So as Alan said, each client's going to be a little different. They're going to be unique. I think it's the over communication piece is what keeps coming up. And I think that's critical.
For sure. And I think today is going to give us different levels of data, right? Especially on our end, where the intensity of this is ratcheted up substantially. And so I would imagine that clients are going to be more inquisitive on what specific actions are you taking to protect us in our home. And then conversely, I think it's fair, like we're in and out. So for us to say, hey, what precautions are you taking in the home? Or so we're coming in and not putting our guys at risk, which I said that very, very quickly and without much empathy, but I think that would be a very empathetic and very direct conversation to have with them as well. So yeah,
that's actually a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm wondering if anybody has any thing they can hear about anything you've done in terms of keeping your team safe and talking with your clients about, hey, while our team is there, we'd appreciate it if you would do X or not do X while we're there, because, you know, we want to not only protect you, but we want to protect our employees as well. Don't know if anybody's got any, go ahead and unmute Ryan. Hey, Ryan, you should be good.
Hey, you guys got me?
Yep.
All right, so I run a delivery company. We deliver high-end retail furniture into clients' homes. We've got about 100 employees across the country, and we've got 4 operations across the country, and one of them is in San Francisco. So they were on this higher level of alert last week. So it kind of gave us all the flags that people are raising in Kentucky and Ohio today were being raised in San Francisco last week, and it was a cluster, right? And everything in San Francisco was multiplied, right? Your revenue, your emotions, your politics, everything is multiplied out there. So everything was like accelerated in a large degree. So what we found is that the more mystery there is to a situation, like the more panic people have, so the more clarity you can bring. And that doesn't mean as a leader that you have to have the answer, but I just find myself continually going back to the CDC guidelines, to the local, state, and county and city like health boards to pursue like that clarity, to paint things as black and white.
Yeah.
Our business has been deemed as essential because of communications and transportation, basically. And there are some people in our company that have said, like, well, man, that's kind of pushing it, right? Like, it just seems like you're kind of doing it for financial gain. It's like, okay, that's fine. You can take that stance. But again, we're trying to pursue a black and white perception there, right? And leaving any gray out of it. So if our lawyers are telling us we're allowed to operate, we will do so under the guidelines that we have been given. So we activated social distancing, swapping out gloves between every delivery. Normally the guys get paperwork signed when they go into a home. At this point, like, they'll just leave the paperwork on, a table or on the porch or on the stairs. Hey, if you could sign this with your own pen, like, it's not going to make sense for, people to be sharing pens throughout the day. Even yesterday I got carry out from Dewey's, and they brought it out to my car, but then they had me sign it with their pen. I was like, guys, that just defeats the purpose, right?
Yep.
So yeah, there are some very practical things. We're having the guys like sanitize the trucks as they get in and out. They use a tablet throughout the day in the trucks, and we're having one person use that tablet instead of them swapping back and forth. Same with the clipboards. So yeah, there are some very practical things that we're putting in place, and we communicate these to our employees and the clients, and it takes a lot of the mystery, which also eliminates like some of the panic out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And if someone doesn't feel comfortable working under these circumstances, that's okay. We're giving people that option, right? No one's saying like, hey, you have to work or else you can't work here anymore. Like, we're giving people that option. So we just found, like, you guys have already stressed like communication. Of course that's essential, but like, again, what I'm trying to pursue for our 100 employees around the country is like, hey, black and white options, right? Let's take how I feel about this. Let's take how you feel about this. Let's consult the lawyers. Let's consult the CDC. Let's consult the local health boards. And can we operate within these guidelines? And for us so far, it's been yes, right? So because we dealt with this in California last week, and then, the new shelter in place was put in Ohio yesterday, some of my local employees are now calling me, hey, does this change anything? And I'm able to go to them and say, actually, no, we're good because we already dealt with this in San Francisco last week. We can continue operating. Again, if you don't feel comfortable with it, if you live with someone who's compromised, we'll let you make that choice. But here are the guidelines, and just making it as black and white as possible.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, how have you been able to make that black and white for your clients in terms of showing up to install furniture in their houses? What are you doing to ease their tension about, gosh, these 1 or 2 or 3 guys are going to come in my house and be here for 2 hours, and I don't know who they are or where they came from?
Yeah. So some things that I already articulated, right? So our communication with them is, hey, we are sanitizing everything in the trucks. We're sanitizing everything. The guys are not sharing tools between each other. They are swapping out gloves in between deliveries. We, as a warehouse and as a crew, are practicing social distancing. We are studying the guidelines of the CDC and communicating them as a team daily. So we will be prepared to execute this with safety in your home. And we found, as most business owners on here have said so far, we found that most people are still willing to take delivery, knowing that, and they're kind of operating under the same circumstances. In addition to that, like, I as a leader have gone out on some of the routes with the guys to see how it actually is. I would imagine everyone on this call is that willing to do those types of things as well, but to have a leader actually be willing to go out. And we have some leaders too who are just like, hey, I'm going to self-quarantine. I can work from home, but now I feel guilty because I'm asking guys. It's like, nah, man, like, you're living with your brother-in-law who had his, kidney replaced last month. That's fine. Like, you fall under that criteria, but as a team, we can all support. But to answer your question specifically, we're just communicating to the customer, as I articulated before, here's what we are doing. Sanitizing, social distancing, we're not sharing tools. We even have some of the masks, things like that. And we found that to be effective so far.
So it's really taking the things you're doing and communicating to your clients of what you're doing to put their minds at ease.
Yes, sir.
So I happen to be one of those leaders that isn't on the front line. And I see one of my really great team members on this call. I'm hoping she doesn't get too angry if I call her out. But I know Carrie Bolte's on the call. Rebecca, if you could unmute Carrie so she can yell at me for calling her out.
Oh boy.
But I'm curious.
Just
Carrie,
blushing.
well, you're literally there. I mean, not only in connecting with the clients, but also going to all the vendor showrooms. So you're sort of balancing both those things, going in client homes, meeting clients face-to-face, and going to interact with our vendors. I'm just curious if you can share anything about what you're seeing in terms of clients' concerns. What kind of things have you done to help alleviate that?
Yeah. So we definitely had the conversation of route to the project. So in the master bath scenario, the one project I'm thinking of, there's really not an easy way to not go through the whole house to get there for me, and thinking forward through the rest of the crew. So we're just kind of starting that conversation. All right, so that's the way it's going to run. And they're getting used to that idea, what other bathroom they can use and where they might be able to relocate into another bedroom. But then for the showrooms, just being that much more mindful of trying not to touch tile samples and such. And I feel really silly, like Vanna White touching an air, like, oh, I like this one. Can we see that? And it's like having the salesperson pull all the samples for me is a little weird. Like, I'm physically able to do it. So just trying not to touch much. And then definitely have noticed clients too in that same scenario. We're all in tighter quarters, wanting to look at the samples, but we're not touching them. We're just standing back and social distancing.
Are you getting clients feeling comfortable in terms of still meeting you? Has anyone said, no, sorry, I don't want to meet you, I don't want to go to a showroom?
So early on last week and the previous week, we were still together in person, and it's like, all right, we're all talking about this, but we're, business as usual. This week and kind of planning forward, we're definitely utilizing more Zoom meetings and screen share, and I'm sending more information via email with links and articles, or even from my perspective, using Hows and communicating through, let's all look at this inspiration picture and talk through what you see on it, and just having those types of conversations, video oriented.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thanks, Carrie. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Good. So were you going to say something, Jerry?
Yeah, Brian Seiler sent me a text. It's really good. And he said one of his questions is, does anyone know how enforcement will be handled and how strict this will be? I've heard law enforcement will not be stopping vehicles. Question number 2, if someone is pulled over, what should they tell or inform the individual that is pulled over? I've got a letter from Rumpke and a letter from FedEx that I'll share with you. And another friend of ours Brendan McAndrews from McAndrews Glass is drafting up a letter for his guys that I'll share. I'll pump that out to you guys. But I don't know, Alan, if you guys have anything, or who spoke a minute ago? Was that Rob? Yeah, for transportation. Or
Yeah,
Ryan.
John from Been There Dump that asked the same question about if there was paperwork or something like that. I know my son-in-law's business is exempt because I think they do military contract work, but they did give them a letter actually to pass. I checked the city of Cincinnati's website, it was either last night or this morning. They're both a blur to me right now. And they are saying that they are not, they're assuming if you're on the road, you're supposed to be on the road. They're not going to pull people over just specifically for that. So,
yeah. Great question though.
Oh, that is a great question. I don't think they're out picking people off, you know, they're not going to be pulling people over wholesale to find out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm if I can, was that it, Jerry? I don't want to.
Yep. Yeah.
Carrie mentioned doing more meetings via Zoom. And I really love, before we wrap up, to be able to give people opportunities to kind of share or brainstorm strategies that you're using to deal with limited access to clients or client discomforts in any way, shape, or form. And I know Carrie and our team, we've been pretty remote for some time now. So that part was not a new shift for us, but doing it with client meetings is new. I did a meeting the other day with Daniel, with an architect, where we did a whole plan review over Zoom. Frankly, I use Zoom all day, every day in my coaching. To me, it was like, I love this because I didn't have to drive. But I'm curious if anybody has some strategies, ideas, hacks that you can share about what you're doing to mitigate the fact that maybe you're using Zoom or GoToMeeting or something like that, or some other way to keep your projects moving forward during this stay-at-home order, during the whole Corona crisis. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share with that? No, you're all doing nothing? Who?
Somebody's trying.
Brenton? Yep. Unmute Brenton.
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Hey, Brenton, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's about 8:30, 8:40 up here. So sorry, I'm a little bit late. But the question was, are we able to continue with certain kinds of business with using digital methods like Zoom, right?
Right, correct. Anything innovative that you've come up with, and you're an innovative guy. I've got my pencil ready to take notes.
So Zoom is definitely nothing new for us, right? We use it in coaching often. I've been doing a lot. So for everybody who's listening, I'm an interactive DJ and MC. So we help people plan their wedding receptions, bar bat mitzvahs, corporate parties. And so we actually moved to Zoom quite a while ago when we realized that we were losing time in between client meetings, traveling, or having clients coming to the office. So being in one spot and then just logging in, logging out, it'd be sometimes a 3-minute, 5-minute turnaround. And I found that people were so much more comfortable talking on Zoom. You know, whether they were wearing pants or not in their living room, it didn't matter because they were at home. So Zoom is definitely an easy way to go, especially with the screen sharing capabilities. I know for some of your businesses though, because you have something that people need to physically touch, that's a little bit harder. Maybe, you know, sending smaller samples by mail might be an easy thing. And then just reminding the customers, hey, you know, wipe it off when you get it, right? But for us, what this crisis has really done for us, it stopped us from actually executing our events, because I can plan all I want, but I can't actually go and DJ or MC the wedding or the corporate party. So for our clients, we're telling them, you know what, let's keep everything rolling. Let's do our meetings online like we normally would. Let's use this as an opportunity to get our minds off of what's going on. And then if it comes down to it, then we'll have to figure out how to reschedule or postpone the wedding. And in the DJ industry, we have this graphic circulating right now called #SaveTheShow, meaning as a DJ or an MC, when somebody books my services, they give me 30% upfront. Then at 90 days out, they give me 40% of the money. And then 30 days out, they give me 30%. So for some of my April events or even March events, I'm already paid in full. So because I don't want to go under by giving back refunds, even if it's just the refundable portion, we've been really giving a window, 18 months. You have 18 months from the day of your event to reschedule with no cancellation fee, no rescheduling fee. So a lot of people are really enjoying that. The clients that are giving a little bit of a fight would be corporate, because for them, cash is important, right? For them, it's important to have cash going and coming. For the wedding clients or the private clients, they're just so happy that we give them that option, because we're not the only ones that have them in a weird spot. They have caterers, photographers, the venues. So there's so many things going on that it's a breath of fresh air when we say to them, hey, look, don't worry, you won't lose your deposit. So that's one, checkbox for them. And second is I'm giving you an 18-month window to be able to rebook. Some DJs are saying 12 months. We're more of a premium service. So we said, 18 months, we have some happy customers. But there are some corporate clients that we have to weigh the odds and say, okay, you know what, let's give them back all of it because we have a good relationship with them. We'll make more money over the lifetime of that customer anyway, but it's definitely a case-by-case basis. So it's business as usual for the ones that we can in terms of the meetings and so on online. But there is one thing that we decided to do because we looked forward, and in our kind of businesses, we can look at what a year looks like, right? Somebody books, they don't book for next week, they book for next year or 6 months or 9 months. So I was able to do an outlook and see how much money I would be losing. So I'm already making a list of my losses so that when it comes to presenting this to the government, and by the way, everyone, I'm in Canada, but I'm certain that there's going to be, different reservations made for you down there as well. But I'm already compiling a list of events that I am losing or having to give money back on so that I can use that to support my losses. And then because entertainment is what I do, I started up an online game show. So every day on Facebook Live, I said to the people, 8:30 p.m. Central Time, we're doing a game show. It's an hour. We play 3 different game shows. Everybody can play. And that's just a way to put some good out into the world. But also on the back end of it, I'm actually capturing my audience on Facebook so that when I do my ads later on, or when this thing blows over, then I have a targeted audience and top of mind awareness. So I'm trying a few different things, but that's one of the major ones to keep the entertainment going because I think we need it. But I'm also capturing all my leads or my target market and saving that. So for later on, I can turn it back on and deliver ads to them. And I'm doing it all via video so that people know that, okay, yeah, video is good. FaceTime is good. Facebook Live is good. Just trying to be innovative like that.
So there's a lot of actually great things you mentioned there. One of them being, and I don't know how this affects the rest of you, but one being flexible or shifting your payment schedules. I don't know in construction specifically if that applies, but certainly worth asking the question. And the other just being looking at these clients that are in the future. Alan talked about 3 different kinds of clients, ones that are under construction, ones that are in the design phase, one that are about to start. Can you proactively go to them and find ways to get, for the ones who are uncomfortable to say, you wouldn't say this to them, you're saying in your own head, but how do I salvage this project and build it later as opposed to just losing it altogether? And, so that's a great way to think about. I really liked it. For me, I felt a little lighter as I thought about that and thinking about future, past this mess. It's so easy to get bogged down when we're day to day staring at these headaches and issues. So I like how that gets us focused forward too. Yeah. And Ashley says she wants to join your game show, Brenton. So send me the link. I'll get it out to everybody.
Well, yeah, I think that's another call for the future. Is what does the future look like? Not today, but
go ahead and unmute, Rick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jerry. I didn't-
Gentlemen, can you hear me?
Yep.
One of the things that I just has helped me get through this as we assess all of the information that's coming at us at lightning speed is we have decided to pause our operations. And in order for me to explain that to my crews, explain that to my clients, it's with the mindset that this is a 14-day order. We are not closing creative contracting. We are not canceling the projects. But when I think about essential, to me, that means absolutely necessary. And I have to weigh the risk versus reward for sending my employees into an environment that may be contaminated, or sending my guys into an environment and contaminating it. And it's just not worth it at this point in time. Yeah. We have a lot of projects, and this is going to cause a lot of pain to clients, to our staff. But when we sat down as a team and talked about it, the bigger picture is taking every precautionary measure we can to be safe. And just, this is not, again, a change in our business model. We are not walking away from these projects, but we are taking a 2-week pause to assess the situation and make a determination at that point what's best moving forward.
Yep. That's good.
Thank you, Rick. That's very courageous, I think, of you to do that. I'm wondering how that was received by clients and your team.
Absolutely positive on every front. Even some of our clients who are in the middle of extensive renovations, who are without kitchens, without bathrooms, who are in alternative living because we have not only their shingles, but their entire roof pulled off of their home. We're very understanding of why we are doing what we were doing and explaining to them exactly what our thought process was, how we are going to adapt. These projects are being affected for 2 weeks. And in a project of this size, again, back to the risk versus reward, it was well worth it.
Yeah.
Even some of our more aggressive and more challenging clients were understanding and receptive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rick. That's great. I'll just say in general, that's been a pleasant, I don't want to say surprise, but a pleasant thing that my wife, Laura, and I always have been talking about recently is just when you see these kinds of things happen in the movies, there's people shooting each other over a gallon of milk, and that's just not happening in our community. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, that's good.
We're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to respect everyone's time.
One of the things that Rick and, well, a couple guys mentioned yesterday on a call, Paul, is that they were gonna finish the jobs they had going. And I think there were 2 guys, maybe one of them's on this call as well, where they were considering, that they're just going to finish the jobs they have going. They may have changed their mind already this morning, but and then just not start any new jobs. So there's some interesting approaches to this for sure.
It's difficult. It's a touchy thing because when you think about it, societally, we go to our homes and our homes are our castles, right? It's where we go to be safe. And for all of you who send crews into people's homes, we're invading that space. And
sure. Yeah.
Sensitive, that is so critical.
I had a conversation with my wife last night about all this. My wife's high risk, and I just wanted to kind of unpack the situation with her, and I said, I'm not looking for your, I'm not asking you to tell me what you think I should do. I'm just kind of having a sounding board. And I think that's, again, going back to your spouse, how you're navigating those conversations. I got a nice text message from my 19-year-old that I thought lacked empathy before the text message that she sent. And she has sent me a long text saying that she realizes the strain and how much she loves me and appreciates me. And so, taking care of those that help take care of you as well. It's as a leader, and one of the things I value about this group is that leaders, we have a tendency of being silos, that we're responsible for taking care of our spouse, our kids, our internal customers, our external customers. And, this is an opportunity for us to serve and take care of each other. So it's it's really, really important. I find it incredibly helpful. And even guys that can't jump on this call like this morning, Paul, one of the things that we talked to the guys about is that this is a standing invitation. So anything that we're doing that you can jump into, log into, if we tape these, anything that we can do to help you, to help each other, it's amazing the wisdom, just even on this call, obviously, 25, 30 folks. So it's inspiring.
Agreed. So as we wrap up, we've talked a lot today about communication, over communicating. I like the one I wrote down: more mystery, more panic. And that's so true. So you can't, I don't think in these kind of times you can over communicate to your clients. I don't think you can over communicate to your employees, to your subs, to your vendors. I don't think you can over communicate to anyone in these kinds of times, even when you don't know for sure what's going to happen next. It's critical to at least have an open conversation, if nothing else, to hear what their concerns are and what their worries are. Sometimes they just need somebody to talk to about it, to get it off their chest, you know. And sometimes it's difficult to do that at home about work, because they don't want to freak out their spouse or kids at home talking about it. So, you know, keep taking that temperature, as Alan mentioned, very often. Take the temperature of your people, not physically, but you can do that as well. But definitely the more mystery, the more panic. So make sure you over communicate. To that end, Jerry, you and I kicked around an idea of doing one of these for employees. So in other words, you guys could all join, of course, but you would encourage and bring your team members in. Maybe you get to just sit and listen and give them an opportunity to talk about the things that are concerning them and get them to have the benefit of a broader community like this that you get out of it. I don't know if anyone has any interest in that. If you would put into the chat real quick, yes, I'd like to, yes, I'd be interested in that, or no, I'm not. Or if there's anything else that you would like to have us make a central topic. These are obviously pretty open communication, open conversations. And, but I think it would be good for our staff to be able to get together and be able to do this same thing. I mean, I find it therapeutic. We don't solve the world's problems because we haven't cured Corona, but at the very least, we can help each other through these times, and your staff might benefit from that.
For sure. And I'll going back to some of the documents that we'll send out, the Rumpke letter, the FedEx letter, my friend Brendan McAndrews from McAndrews Glass, I'll send his letter out. Any of the documentation, I don't know if we should start a Google Drive or something, Paul, to have all these documents, but in the meantime, we can just disperse them. I will also tell you guys as we're wrapping up, there's a bunch of us that are people of faith are having a prayer time on in the mornings from 7:15 to 7:30 that you can opt into. Just let me know if you want. People come in muted, and then we had Rick Meyer actually led this morning. So anyway, just trying to figure out different ways to support each other. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, as leaders, you have been built for this. This is the next, you know, I'm looking at Rick Boyle's name on the screen. Rick Boyle's been built for this next challenge. And so many of us, so many times we don't feel, I know I don't feel adequate many times throughout the day. As a reminder, leader to leader, that you are equipped, you have been trained, you are prepared, you will overcome. We as an industry will overcome. We'll get through this. And as Rick sent me a text, we will get through this together. So
I think, and just in closing, I'm going to share something that a friend and client shared with me, and I thought this was really cool. Give yourself some permission to think past this. As leaders, it can be so frustrating to be so focused on what's right in front of us. And just gutting it out isn't always the best answer, right? So what we think makes us productive is just working ourselves to death. Don't forget to take care of yourselves in all this. Stick with your exercise programs, eat well, sleep, try to rest. And the last one of these we did, a quote that I heard that I just loved, every hand you don't shake should be a phone call that you make. You know, I'm texting and calling my mother more than ever, and that's a good upside to all of this, because she's 80 years old. So it's like, what do you need? What can I do for you to help you through this? I think she's tougher than me, by the way, but don't forget to take care of yourselves, and don't cheat yourself out of taking a few minutes to think strategically. One of the things that Brenton shared that I thought was so powerful, he's already looking at next year. He's already looking at, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to get past
Smart.
it, and I'm going to come out on the other side. So I
Amen.
think you're surprised at how therapeutic it'll be to give yourself some space to still be you and lead and still be optimistic about the future.
Yeah, check out the Conduit podcast. I got Kelly Clark coming in on today, I think at 11 o'clock. So we're trying to pump a couple of those out a day. So more, you know me, Balsher, more opportunity. I mean, we got a GSD, we got to get a lot of stuff done. However, I need you guys, and I need your insight. I've got 2 pages worth of notes already today. So thank you guys.
Gary and I will talk about the staff. I saw a lot of yeses on the reply to the getting your staff together. We'll talk about that and get that up and running as quickly as possible and get an email out to all of you.
That's good. Good. Love you guys. It's good stuff.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.